This is.
Hey, welcome to episode number 600, a milestone. We have been a podcast for, over a decade. It's been since 2013. Talk about it a little bit on the episode, but appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like it, follow the podcast, whatever it is on wherever you listen. If you're on YouTube, my YouTube is Mike Herrera Video. Please subscribe to my YouTube, like the video. That would be very helpful, very appreciative. All right, let's get to my guest. My guest, you may know him as Yuri. I know him as Yuri Ruley. He's the drummer of my band MxPx. He is a legend. He is one of the best guys you'll ever meet, and he knows what is up in the drumming department. Also, he can fix any light in this place. Like, he's amazing. So without any further ado, here's Yuri. So this is episode 600. So welcome. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Mr. Yuri Ruley, Yuri Zane. It's been a while since you've been on the podcast.
Yeah, it has.
I feel like you guys avoid this like the plague.
It's like, I don't know, when we're here doing it, it's fine, you know?
It's more the scheduling.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine me having to, like,
Oh,
that's
shoot,
why
yeah.
it's so hard for me to schedule guests all the time, is because I feel like I'm literally bothering them.
Right? yeah, I can
Let
see
me
that.
bum you out.
yeah. That's crazy, though. 600.
600.
Wow. How many? Is that once a week?
Just about. I mean, I've taken, months off at a time a few times.
Okay.
But for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been how many years?
Over 10.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
I think 2013 was February 2013 I did my first episode.
Wow.
I don't remember if it was like Jack Parker or somebody like that. It was like somebody,
Yeah.
a friend here.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just it's come a long way, up and down,
Sure.
down,
Yeah, sure,
So,
yeah.
but people constantly, you at shows, wherever I am, they'll say, thanks for the podcast.
That's cool.
And I'm like, are you one of the few? Like, it just seems
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. That's
Seems-
cool, though. That's cool that you've kept it going through all these years. And yeah, I'm like, man, you've talked to so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've talked a lot just myself.
Right,
Which
right.
is-
Yeah. Sure,
which is
sure.
kind of not like me. Like, I mean, both of you talk more than me, I think, when we're all in a group together.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, you're like telling stories, Tom's telling stories. I'm more just kind of laughing along,
Sure.
adding my 2 cents.
Right.
And here I am with a podcast.
It is true. Yeah, I was thinking about that just because, you're a hard worker. You're oftentimes the point of the arrow, but yeah, you're not always like the talker guy all the time. You're not always filling every. That's more Tom's thing, really. Yeah. Where he's filling every room.
I feel like everybody's
holding
got their
court.
role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of which, we got a few things. We got some shows coming up. March.
Yep.
March 20. I should probably pull those dates up. But I wanted to talk about our writer, because we need to change our writer up, and this won't be official. Nothing we talk about will be official. But for those that don't know what a writer is, it's like a hospitality writer. It's like a group of suggestions, maybe. Like, hopefully you can get this. It's part of the show budget, and basically it's like food and things that helps you get through your day.
Yeah,
right?
stuff that's kind of nice to have when we show up at the venue and start loading in some chips, some salsa.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm not going to name names, but a guy in the band industry we know, in the band world we know.
Yeah.
We were talking and he came in one day or what. I don't want to say too much about what, but it was just so funny because he's like talking about his writer.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I didn't get my my wine, or I think it was like champagne. He had like champagne or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's my sweet treat. So funny.
That is hilarious.
Oh, it is just so funny. But I mean, it is kind of, you get sort of accustomed to a certain lifestyle.
Sure,
Let's say if you're like on an arena tour, they all say like, the road to the top leads through catering.
Yep, exactly.
So you got, once you're on that tour with catering, you've hit the big time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So back to the writer. Right now we have like sandwich stuff like bread, cheese, meats, avocados. We have sun chips.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of the main things is like let's add more sun chips because everybody loves the sun chips.
Yeah.
And we also need to get a different kind of sun chips. Like we're gonna get like regular.
Versus
original versus I think harvest cheddar.
Yeah, harvest cheddar.
Because Chris Adkins can't eat the harvest cheddar, and so it's like.
Gosh, yeah.
That's why we're getting harvest cheddar. There's not enough sun chips to go around. Yeah. So, sun chips is a biggie in our camp.
It really is. I mean, I always, grab a little paper bowl and fill it with sun chips.
Yeah.
Going like, oh, wait, who asked for these? I know it wasn't me, but I'm helping myself here.
So good. I mean, that's the thing. It's for everybody.
Right.
It's on the writer. So we'll get more sun chips. Is there anything else that we haven't had that you're like, why don't we have this? I know it's a tough question.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, I'm oftentimes just like, what's here? I'll just make do with what's here. I don't think to the next level of like, what could be here? What would be nice?
What would be? That's so hard to like try to envision. What would my life? What does my life need?
Right.
What would make it better?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just take what comes, man.
It's like, you have to find. I'm like spitting everywhere. You have to find something that like you're like, why? This is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you put that on the writer.
Right.
Man, so we just announced a ton of shows.
Yeah.
Sorry to get off the writer thing.
Yeah.
But we're not going anywhere with this writer thing. We need some suggestions though. So if anybody can suggest snacks or healthy snacks or whatever, certain types of drinks, but try to make it. This is the hard part: healthy, but also national.
Right, exactly.
Or we find an equivalent international if we're like overseas and there's nothing like that brand wise. Get something like it. But
yeah.
If anybody has any suggestions, please let us know. The best place is the Mike Herrera Facebook group on Facebook, obviously. Go there, get in the comments, let us know what's up. All right, Yuri, we got shows coming up, speaking of writer, and that's why I actually have been, it's on my to-do list for this week, is to like finalize the new changes on the writer, and I've taken off tea, because I think I'm the only one that drinks tea.
Okay, so
is there anybody
else? Yeah, I don't see a lot of people drinking tea.
I don't think so. So we leave the coffee, ixnay the tea, and most venues have tea anyway, so it's not something you have to go and buy. Yeah. So I put that off the writer. If it's available, fine. I don't really drink a lot of tea, even for my voice. And if it's really bad, I'll get some throat coat, and I'll
there you go. Yeah,
I either have it on me or I'll request it.
Sure. Yeah.
Brad, need that throat coat. Let's go. So coming up, 9:30 Club. Thursday, March 26th, MxPx in the Ataris. Friday, March 27th at NorVa. Actually, that 9:30 Club, that Thursday night show is almost sold out. It's very close.
Nice.
So by this week, I would get your tickets if you don't have them. Friday, NorVa, awesome spot. It's better than it used to be. So whatever you remembered about it, they've kept up the niceties, but they've actually I think updated it a little bit.
Oh, interesting. I always thought of it as a nice venue, kind of a funky venue because the backstage was like in another building, kind of almost like.
Well, no. The backstage is just upstairs at NorVa.
Yeah, okay.
But it has that hot tub.
Oh, that's right.
And it has a sauna.
Yeah. Okay.
A sauna. So it's got a sauna. I think maybe we should try the sauna next time. But it's like,
there you go. Yeah.
Who wants to get super hot and then go play a super hot show? And then there's a hot tub. The hot tub was drained, and I don't think anybody uses it.
Yeah,
so,
but the sauna is here to stay.
But that'll be a good Friday night in Norfolk.
Yeah, for sure.
Saturday, the Fillmore in Charlotte, North Carolina, March 28th, and then kicking it, the final show, Charleston Music Hall in Charleston, South Carolina, Sunday, March 29th. MxPx and the Ataris. So we're gearing up for that. That's why I'm talking about the writer. And sometimes you just kind of live with something for like years. And, and you talk about it at a show. Yeah, we should change that for the next show. You never do.
Yeah, that time never comes.
It never comes. So we're making some changes. We're making some guitar changes too that haven't been changed. Guitar changes meaning sounds and amps and gear stuff, not actual. See, Tom didn't show up. No. Panic. No. So we're sort of just at the beginnings of like gear stuff and like changing up a few things, whether it's like a pedal board situation,
right?
Anything like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about even looking into a different bass amp situation, but I don't think I'm going to do that yet because I really don't need to. Like I really don't need to until we've got like, you know, maybe even a full tour. Like you just really don't need it because I'd probably have different gear on a full tour versus fly out tours.
Right.
So I'm just thinking inside my head about a modeling system versus an amp.
Gotcha.
You know, and I still use an amp, but I would still use an amp with a modeling system. It would just be added to it, and that's why I'm hesitating because I'm like, do I really need to add a piece of gear to a system that already works? You know?
Right. Yeah.
So there's other things I could change about my gear, my bass setup, that would probably be better that I should do before I do that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah. It's going to be interesting. MxPx, Goldfinger, Zebrahead, and Homegrown. That's in Denver, Saturday, April 11th at Mission Ballroom.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, it's going to be dope. We're going to be doing a different set than we've been doing. So anybody that came to the show in Denver last time, it'll be a different set than that. Let's just say that. But it's going to be wild. You know, I'm going to play bass for Goldfinger right before.
Yeah.
I'm going to use all of my brain power, I think, on MxPx. So I'm going to be pretty dumb for Goldfinger. You know what I mean? Like when you clone yourself too many times.
Yeah.
That's going to be me playing bass for Goldfinger. I'm just going to be up there, blah, blah, blah. Just like hold it down, have fun, don't push too hard, don't sing too hard.
Right.
Because I don't want to like, mess with my voice. I never, of course, blow out my voice or anything for Goldfingers. I'm singing a lot, but it's all backup vocals. It's usually a fairly lower register. There's some higher stuff I do, but I think I'll just be nice and warm for that show.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's not something I want to do all the time.
Right.
But it's more of a chat. It's like, wow, this is a triathlon rather than or it's like really a biathlon. But
sure, yeah.
But yeah, you get it.
You could talk to Zebrahead about playing bass for them, and then
that's true. That's true. Much love to Ben. Much love. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's gonna be good. And we just announced Warped Tour.
Yeah.
I won't get into all the dates for those, but it's all of them. So that's Long Beach. Yeah. It's Washington, D.C., Long Beach, Mexico City, Orlando, and Montreal.
Yeah,
yep.
nice.
So every single one. And it's almost a tour. You know,
right,
I mean, it's very spread out, but they're adding more and more. And so if it keeps going well, maybe they just keep adding. Yeah. They add a Chicago, they add a Texas, they add, whatever.
Right. Yeah,
so,
cover more of the country.
That'd be cool. And then Punkadeka, that's in Milan, Italy, Saturday, September 5th.
Nice. Yeah, that would be great.
It's going to be great. It's our only European show. We're doing that festival. We're headlining that festival, I assume. And then, I don't know what else besides that.
Yeah.
Goldfinger's got a bunch of stuff. But aside from that, that's going to keep us pretty busy. And I assume... we're working on this new album.
Right.
And it's not ready yet. It's not done. But we have the songs ready as far as we've practiced them, we've demoed them. Everything's ready. We know how everything goes.
Yeah, for sure.
I was kind of I pulled up a couple demos to the new album on the way here, actually, and I was just listening to them. I was like, you know what, this is honestly just I know that there's been iterations of a lot of the songs, but it's a sloppy version of what we did. We really kind of worked everything out, and it's ready to go. But let's talk about this versus other albums. Was getting this album ready different for you?
I mean, not really. I mean, in the sense, the process was pretty much the same. I mean, I always come into it, wanting to be better than last time, or but I guess the issue maybe is that there's years between the times that we write and work up new material. So my best intentions are long forgotten, but
maybe that's a good thing too, because it's like, what would I do now?
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
just whatever your lived experience is going to inform that. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it's just details. Like I'll listen back to older records and I'll hear things that I didn't do that could have done if I was like listening a little more intently.
That happens every record for me.
Yeah.
It's like baseline stuff, especially because once we record the record, we're playing it. And we start playing it live.
Yeah.
Then I start doing different things on the bass live. You might do that on drums a little bit.
I would want to more than I do. Sometimes I'm like, well, I don't want to do too much extra because it would, I don't know, could potentially throw some, like throw somebody off or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, there is always a little bit of that. Like, wish I would have done this had I been listening a little better.
For me, it's just I just need the time and the iteration of getting, I almost kind of get good enough to add to it, get good enough at the idea.
Right.
Because when I'm like demoing songs on the acoustic to bring to you guys, I'm like, sometimes I can barely get through the song. Like I don't remember this, I don't remember that, and I'll have to like stop, go back, try it again, like listen to what it was, and that's like very early on in the process.
Yeah.
Once I get the song and I'm listening back to the melody, I can pretty much get it back.
Yeah.
But for me, it's almost like a test. It's like I know that there's just so many good ideas out there.
Right.
What's the best one? It's like, dang, I could do it this way. And so you hear a melody that you recorded already, and you're like, man, if I would have just sang it just a little different, that would have changed a lot for me.
Right.
But it's not that that's bad.
No.
So it's just like, man, I don't know. You can't second guess yourself too much like that. I think with this new album, I'm really letting go of that.
Okay.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, this is a stamp in time, and once these songs hit the stage, they'll stay like that, but they'll also kind of grow outside of that. And as most of our songs have.
Yeah, for sure.
Sort of a lot of our key songs, Responsibility is a little different. Like that's a song that has that bridge part. I'm still young and I'd like to stay that way. And it comes down.
Yeah.
And I really feel like, wow, we really could have done more with that.
Yeah, dynamically.
Yeah. But we do that live. So like we make it happen. I don't know. I mean, I feel like, I think even when you know that, you don't always do that.
Sure.
When you're working on a new song, you still forget certain things that you should do. But that's literally because we're all human and we're just going with the energy.
Yeah.
And going with what flows together.
Right.
And sometimes you just leave cool parts on the floor, and it's the right thing to do, right?
Sure,
like listening back to some of the demos for Find a Way Home.
Yeah.
Ready to Rage was very different, I think. There was, and even on self-titled, a lot of those songs, Let's Ride was different.
Okay.
The way we did it, the order we played the parts, the sequencing of the parts and stuff was different. And so it's interesting. Once you put that away, you don't even think about it, and you forget, right?
Right.
Like we said, we kind of forget what we've done in the past, but we have that lived experience. And maybe part of that lived experience is like, okay, we don't need to iterate as much because we've done it so many times on these other songs.
Yeah.
Ended up with what we did the first time. You kind of
right.
I am the worst at that. It's probably annoying to you guys. Maybe we should talk about that. How my brain will change things like from one practice to the next.
Yeah.
Wiz complains about that sometimes, right? It's going to change next practice.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point, we're pretty used to that, and it could be a very subtle change from one practice to the next. And Yeah, I suppose there's an element of it that's like, okay, when's this gonna stop changing? But it's part of the process.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Find a Way Home is a great example because everybody knows the songs, but there were some choruses that completely changed, on that record, and I think same with this new record.
Yeah.
A couple choruses completely. It's just like searching for that right thing to say in there, and it's like when you have a good idea, you don't want to just throw it away necessarily.
Sure. Yeah.
Because some writers will be like, okay, I'm not rewriting anything. I'm gonna write this song, and it is what it is. And that's plenty of times where I write a song and it is what it is. But I feel like that's what makes me go back as I second guess or whatever, and I just go, is this the best way I can say this as a whole?
Yeah.
And the chorus is always the crux of the matter, the crux of the song.
Sure.
Or maybe even the bridge can be too. But the bridge usually goes deeper into something or whatever. But I was listening to Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Not on the radio or anything. I was actually put on her live. I think it was like her Eras tour.
Okay. Yeah.
Documentary. It's just I just wanted to see what she was doing. Like, what is the biggest artist in the world putting out? What kind of quality? It's quality. I mean, it's good. She put on a great show, and I knew just about every song. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I know all these songs? But after you listen to that many Taylor Swift songs, you go, okay, there's a formula.
Oh, for sure,
And it's like it's the same words over and over, and the same. It's she switches them up, and I do that too. Yeah. As a songwriter, we all kind of like gravitate towards what we do, right?
Sure, yeah.
And so like people like that, and maybe you shouldn't listen to every single album all the way through, but please do. Of Taylor Swift is what I meant, because it starts just becoming this sort of process where you're like, okay, it's not as organic as I thought it was.
Okay, you're hearing it differently when you're listening to so much over and over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
you start seeing the matrix. I
guess. I see that the lady in the red dress.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, props to her. She's I do not want to tear her down what she's doing at all. She's been successful, and a lot of what you see happening in the world that's successful is a process that's repeated over and over and over.
Yep.
And a lot of people would say, well, look at your band. All your songs sound the same. Your 3 or 4 different styles that you guys do.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. All right. My yed hurts, So it's interesting though, but just seeing that if you just once you hit something that people latch onto. You just keep doing that. And she has to reinvent herself in different ways, but you see through that when you really kind of pay attention to that. And like I said, it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. It's like, dang. All right. So looking back at my songwriting going, okay, well, I just want to not feel embarrassed in a few years. You know what I mean? Because I wrote so many songs as a kid, not realizing, not understanding all these people are going to be taking this seriously. It doesn't matter if you're kind of joking. Yeah. You have to make it very obvious. Like Eminem came out and there was no subtlety to what he was saying. It was obvious. It was meant to be offensive, but also it was funny. You know?
For sure. Yeah.
And, I think a lot of the things that I would write were like things you would write in your journal and things that you would say to your friend group that understood what you were saying. Yeah. And I still have that in me, definitely. Sure. Yeah. But I feel like I try to look at it also from an outside listener and go, if I didn't know anything about me or the band and I'm listening to this song, does it make sense? Right. Yeah. Yeah. So. For sure. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of funny even for me. Like, I mean, I didn't write the songs, but they're I'm a part of them, and absolutely, and so it is kind of funny. Like a move to Bremerton, or like this started as like
just a thing between us. And
Yeah,
it turned,
yeah.
but it's kind of funny that it turned into something that, you know, I mean, I have actually known people that have moved to Bremerton because of that song, you know?
That's wild.
Yeah, it's super funny.
And never once did we think people are going to move to Bremerton.
No,
like,
no,
this is
never.
a joke.
Yeah,
but
totally.
But do, yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah,
That's wild.
Yeah, but yeah, it's funny for me, like, with these last couple of records, is the first time in the band's history that like I've like looked at your lyrics. I mean, I've always thought you were a good writer. I've always thought you were a really good lyricist. Certain songs, you know, stuck out to me more than others, or hit me personally and deeper than others, or whatever. But yeah, no, I like these last couple of records. Like, man, Mike is a really good lyricist. You know, like I don't always know what you're talking about, but that doesn't matter. Just like, you know, the form of it, the
the cadence and
the
dude, that's literally how I get going on lyrics. Is like I go with like a cadence or something, like a hook type thing that sticks in my head, and I'll just write based on that.
Yeah.
And I'll just come up with some lyrics, and then I'll write based on that one lyric. Literally everything I write is based on usually one or two lines.
Right.
That I come up with that idea.
And just expound.
And then it goes from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Wrecked My Day. That's, people know that song because we played it live on the live stream.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how I came up with that idea, but it was just like, this is such a basic idea as far as life goes.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you having a bad day.
Yeah.
But you have the end of the day to look forward to because you're going to see your honey, your somebody, you know. So it's simple, but like it's just like, how do you find a new way to say things every time? That's what's hard about songwriting, and that's what can make songwriting cheesy as well. Like when you have a group of songwriters in a room and everybody's trying to beat each other and put the cleverest line out there. Sometimes it actually takes away from the idea of the song and from the realness of the idea. So it is a balance for sure. Is like, okay, let's say something, but also say it in a way that is clever,
but not too clever.
Not too clever, right? It kind of depends on who you are as an artist too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like me, I can't be too clever because I got simple. You know, everybody knows me as a simple songwriter or whatever. But like, whatever. It is what it is. You know, I look at some of my lyrics and I think, oh man, this is so good, and then I take some time away from it, and I go, all right, this is fairly simple. you know. So I think everything I write is the best thing ever at the time of writing, and that's what it has to be. Yeah. Because then you have the enthusiasm and the drive to finish it. And there are times where I realize it in the middle of the song, and I don't finish. Sometimes I do. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, this is good enough to where I should keep writing, but I don't think this is what it's going to end up being. Like,
gotcha.
I like this part.
You can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you have like two different songs that just aren't good on their own, but have a part that's really good about each of them. I'll try to take those and put them together.
Yeah. And I think during practice that's come up where it's like, oh yeah, that chorus. You'd be like, I like this chorus.
Yeah.
But the rest of it's going to go.
Yeah. Remember this song we tried and I never brought back? Well, now I just brought this part back.
Yeah.
And I rewrote the whole
rest. And I think that's kind of cool. You know?
I think you have to do that, especially when you've been in a band this long.
Right.
It's like there's going to be ideas that don't percolate in time for whatever you're working on.
Sure.
That aren't bad, but they're just not good yet.
Right.
And that's what that's all about is finding that puzzle piece and adding that to the puzzle that needs that piece.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You've said that several times. Like, if I'll be like, I really like that song, and you're like, it's still around.
It'll be there. Yeah. If it's good, it's good. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
When it's funny, like when I come up with like a song title that I think is really good.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll be like, okay, we kind of know what that song should sound like. Right.
Yeah.
I think Cautious Optimistic was one. That was a song I wrote the title.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I had.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I had that for like 2 years,
That's
3
so
years.
Funny.
And then I finally was like, I can't put it off any longer. I got to write this song. What is this song going to be?
Yeah.
And I always knew it was going to be like a quirky type song.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
But I didn't know what I didn't know it was going to be what it was. So it's a mystery because I don't write. Unless like you guys are like every now and then Wisniewski will be like write this type song, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't sit down and think about what type song I'm writing.
Yeah.
I just literally go with what the hook is,
Okay.
and then that might take it harder or softer or whatever.
Yeah, gotcha. The hook leads the way.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for this summer. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
We played. I mean, we might end up doing some more live streams at some point, but we got so many live shows.
Yeah.
That I think we will. It just won't be as as curated. It'll be a little bit more chaotic.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. But we should do a segment on just drumming because you're the drummer.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about it in the past a little bit, but it's been so long. So we, don't worry about repeating yourself or anything. But I mean, at this point in our career, what do you do differently? What doesn't ever change about your tactics and how you play and how you prepare for shows, albums, whatever comes to mind?
Yeah. Not much has changed. It's funny. I've been pretty static for a long time. I mean, it's so much it's a mental game, Okay. I mean, I think, it's funny playing drums for MxPx or if I'm playing drums for something else, completely different animal. It's like this playing drums for MxPx lives in its own universe.
Okay, explain that a little go deeper.
Yeah. So it's a very physical band, and
so it feels like everything else is much easier.
Easier. Yeah, it just feels like MxPx is the top of the mountain, and everything else is just foothills.
Yeah, I would say I feel the same exact way about MxPx versus Goldfinger.
Really?
Yeah, it's so easy to play Goldfinger. Even if I don't even know the songs, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't matter. But with MxPx, it's just like the focus that I need and the physical and the mental, the focus, the physical, and the voice.
Yeah.
So it's like if I don't have all those things,
yeah,
it's going to be a rough show.
Right.
Really, I'm just going to be like, okay. But go ahead.
Yeah. For me, total. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the mental game has to be there, because I got to make it through this set that has a lot of transitions that are drumming based, like there'll be big sections of the set where there's no stopping really, for any of us to some degree, but even like you might get a break while I'm doing a drum thing, but it's, 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah. Props to you, Yuri, because you almost are going the whole entire show. There's maybe one or two times where you stop for less than 5 seconds, probably.
Yeah.
Because we pretty much, and that's like, okay, that's still during a song. So it's not like you're still paying attention, but you're just like, you can not move your arms for a second.
Exactly.
But that's just the show that we've sort of like morphed into this sort of like it never stops. Even if it stops kind of show.
There's something going on.
There's always something going on. And, I feel like once you get to that point, it's really hard to not do that because then you feel like your show's falling apart if you stop all the time and then there's no flow to it. And so like for us, it's like a flow thing and you do amazing, but it is not, I know it's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I mean, I love our set. I love that we've gotten to this place where we pay so much attention to the transitions and we really, curated, like to use a word you used earlier, curate the whole thing for people. But it's a lot of work. So that's when mentally I have to be like in total control of my body because it's so easy to like overplay. That's the kind of thing that I'm always trying to watch out for is to play with a lot of energy, obviously, being the heartbeat of the whole thing, but keep the energy, play in such a way that I can keep the energy up the whole time through all that kind of thing. And that is like, Yeah, it's just it's a mental game. Yeah. I mean, it's the most physical thing I do, you know, so, athletes and all that stuff talk about this kind of thing. And
there's no substitute. Even if you're working out, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to have the same mental tax that doing that show would do. And I would agree, it's probably the most physical thing I do.
Yeah.
By a long shot. I can't, like workouts, I just can't do the same type of workouts that I did 10 years ago.
Sure.
Everything's much lighter. Everything's much less time, but just staying. But the best I feel is when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I think part of it is because of the adrenaline. I know I'm not going to die, or at least I don't think I am going to die.
Right.
But I've got that blood pumping and the crowd's out there. Everything feels just so alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's impossible to get that same feeling not on stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
which we don't even need to get into the whole mental depression thing of like your serotonin being so high on stage, and then after that it's like drops way low. And I don't think we really have issues with that. Everybody's pretty cool, and they kind of come down in their own way. I think we take enough breaks as far as in between shows, show runs and things, where I think if we had kept touring nonstop, even now, we may all be batshit crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Might be a totally different situation.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that alternate universe, just because it's been so long since we've really been like grinding on the road. This balance is great. I love it. I get to love it so much more because there's a little bit of this like a little bit of downtime.
I've heard it called vacation core touring, which is funny, but it's so not true, because everybody almost any band that's doing 4-day, 3-day runs, 2-day runs, whatever it is, weekend shows, you're still going to be grinding on those off days, doing something. And if it's not working for yourself, it might be working another job or whatever. So many artists out there are working side jobs. So it's not really vacation core, but it's a balance thing. Yeah. And it's also costs are going up insanely.
Right.
So to be on the road all the time, you literally have to be redlining that I guess that money thing. Like I'm just in my head, I'm thinking of like being on a chair of some corporation, like more profits. Like that's kind of what it feels like to be on a tour constantly. And I think Real Big Fish kind of had that vibe when they were touring literally nonstop until COVID, until they couldn't. Yeah. And Aaron was like, oh, thank God, I'm done. Wow. And he like pretty much quit. Yeah. I feel like he'll eventually come back and do something. Maybe. But I think he was just burnt out, man. Like there's just no end in sight, nowhere to go. And man,
that's a long time too. I mean,
they literally like never stopped touring.
Yeah. That's
all through.
Yeah, that's wild.
All through the 2007, 2008, 2009 when the economy collapsed, and I'm sure shows were rough, and Napster was a thing. Yep. That was ruined everybody's record sales for like 5 years or whatever. So, I mean, I get that, and I like that we have the choice to do either. If and when the right situation comes along, we will do full tours. When we're overseas, if we're doing more than just like in Italy, we're just doing one show. But if we're going to Australia, that's going to be a tour. If we're going to, other places, there's going to be tours involved. But if we can do the Nashville thing where we can get in and out in 4 or less days, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think fans like it a lot more too.
Right.
Because they can plan ahead on going out for the weekend, doing this thing, and it's usually not on a Thursday.
Right.
Sometimes it is, but it's definitely not going to be on a Monday on these situations.
Yeah, I can't even imagine playing a Monday night anymore. Like, wow.
We play a Sunday, you know, we
Yeah.
play Sundays, but it's still technically the weekend. It's connected to the weekend, and you can skip work the next day, or you can go. I mean, we got to work usually after. Well, if we have a show the next day after a show, we're working.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So we're up traveling, and those even these vacation core tours are not easy.
No.
When you're driving 4 to 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes at night, sometimes during the day. You got to set up early for the sound checks. It's not like touring back in the day when we didn't have to show up until like 4 or 5, 6, 7.
Right, exactly.
Now we're showing up at like 11, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So it's wild. But speaking of the old days, we should talk a little bit about Warped Tour before we get out
for sure.
of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Warped Tour, obviously, with the history of our band, huge deal, right? I mean, Warped Tour was really new. Like when our first year on the Warped Tour, '97. I think it had only third year, whatever, but it was already pretty big deal. I remember, like, it was like, wow, this is amazing. You know,
Wisniewski and I went the first year. We just went.
Yeah,
We bought tickets. It was less than $10.
Wow.
We bought them at like Rite Aid or something.
That's crazy.
And we just literally bought them in Seattle. We didn't get them ahead of time or anything. We just went across the ferry, went to a Rite Aid, got the tickets, went in. It was Social Distortion. It was L7. It was No Doubt. I think No Doubt played, or am I thinking wrong? It was No Use for a Name played.
Okay.
Wizzo from Germany.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, so just like a bunch of kind of random punk bands and kind of grungy bands too, because this was 1995.
Right, so kind of the tail end of the grunge thing.
Yeah. And we had just become a band, so there was no way we were really gonna get it. And I'm pretty sure Tom was not in the band yet when we went.
Okay.
We were just friends.
Okay.
He was playing in Endless Descent, playing drums.
Yeah.
And so we went, had a great time, saw these amazing bands that you know, were on Fat Records and, you know, I think it was Social Distortion. I could be wrong about that too. But like I said, it was a very grungy lineup.
Yeah.
But L7 was definitely on it. And so, 97 was our first year.
Yep.
We started in D.C.
That's
that was
right.
our very first show.
Yep.
So it'll be cool to play D.C. again.
Absolutely.
Twice. I mean, we're playing there in this month and then again this summer.
Yeah.
Or is it this summer? I don't know when the dates are, but it starts in June. It's like June every month. For a while.
Yeah. That's cool.
It'll be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be so different. I mean, one of my favorite memories, or just things about the Warped Tour, was just the camaraderie between all the bands. You know, and this is different because it's not like a daily thing, but. I mean,
we were on the tour for 10 days in 97. Is that about right? 10 days to 2 weeks? Or?
Something like that. Yeah, it wasn't a long time.
It was the end of the tour. So we went Washington, D.C., all the way down to Florida.
Yeah.
Did all the Florida dates, back up. It ended in Atlanta. So it might have been just a week even.
Yeah.
And we had our van. We didn't have a fancy bus, nothing like that. We're in our van with our trailer, and we had to load our gear ourselves every day across the parking lots, whenever, and, you know, do the show on the side stage, the little truck stage.
Yeah.
But we got to meet, we already knew Blink at that point.
Yeah.
You know, we were friends with them. We got to meet the Descendents,
Yeah.
and that was huge.
Yeah.
You know, they were our heroes, really, punk rock heroes.
For sure.
And I felt like we were kind of like little kids. Just being like, hey, let's hang out, you know, and we were.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Stefan was cool. Everybody was cool. Everybody. But Stefan was the one that we really kind of like latched onto for the most part.
For sure.
But do you remember having Milo come up in Atlanta?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, I feel like, well, I don't know, in my mind, we're like, man, this is a long shot, you know?
Yeah.
That we're going to do Hope and have Milo sing it. And it was like, wow. He came up. I remember him like turning around and going something like, you guys know this one? Or what? I don't remember what he said. And we played it really fast.
Yeah, we did. It's so funny. Like I'm kicking myself because when we did that last NoFX show in 23, was it 24? 24 in San Pedro. they did like a set on the side after their, we played Friday, and then they played Saturday. Descendents played Saturday at the festival, but then they played like a karaoke set kind of where bands could come, people could come up and sing.
Right.
I should have picked Hope, to like sort of like redo the thing. I didn't even think of it, and I picked Good Things. Yeah. Which is cool, but like I was thinking about that later. I was like kicking myself. Man, why didn't you do Hope? That would have been a perfect sort of like just round robin, full circle of exactly. But Warped Tour, the camaraderie is something that you just can't get without spending days and days and days out there. Yeah. Going through, waiting in catering lines with people, spending time not talking to people, going ignore, not feeling comfortable enough to say hi, but maybe later on. Yeah. Hey, we were on Warped Tour together. What's up? How you doing? Right. We were kids, so I was not. I mean, some kids are very outgoing, but I wasn't super outgoing. Same. So it was always like when people would come up to us and be like, "Oh man, I love you guys," blah blah blah. Other bands. Yeah. And then we'd become friends. But who were some of our? I mean, the Descendents, I would think, were one of them. But like, was there any other bands that you can think of the first couple of years that we hung with a lot? It's so hard to remember.
Yeah, gosh. Oh man, I don't remember like. Well, I remember certain people. Like, of course, I always gravitate towards the drummers. I remember one year I spent not a lot of time, but like daily conversations with the drummer for the All American Rejects.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, he worked for NOFX and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in 2024, did you go up and be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. When we played Denver, stuff with them, and any time that we were playing with NOFX, he was there, and I mean, we weren't like close, but like I don't know.
But it was
just
like
remember
a professional friendship.
Yeah,
like, hey,
I remember. Oh yeah, I remember once, back in the day when the All American Rejects, I think, only had one record out, and their first record had real drums, but also a lot of program stuff, and they had like a 24-track DAT machine or something that ran all their tracks, and it went down, and so I remember they were like kind of freaking out a bit about that, and I remember talking to him that day, and he's like, "I got it. Everything will be fine. I don't know what they're freaking out about."
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like the whole thing, like with computers these days, a lot of people have tracks on their computer. If it goes down and you don't have a backup computer, you're just screwed. Yeah. But like if you can play as a band, you're not screwed.
Right, exactly.
Right? And especially with Warped Tour, there's no lighting show really, so it really is about the audio. And MxPx has never used, not that we would never use tracks or whatever, but we've never really used tracks. We've used samples now and again.
Sure, yeah. which was funny, the way we used them, because we didn't use a click track with them.
We never
So it's like, well, let's hope it all works out.
Most of the time it did. Sometimes not so much.
Yeah. Sometimes we were way faster when the...
So explain that a little bit more.
Okay, so I'm thinking the song Play It Loud. Yeah. It has like the keyboard parts, the very rhythmic keyboard part that we got going in the studio when we made that record, and we took that sample, and so I had my little sample pad there, and when the bridge kicked in, or the last big chorus, I'd hit that, but that was made up to a certain tempo. Yeah. And we're fat. We play, I get excited. Everyone gets excited. Yeah. So the tempos are faster live. And so, when I would hit that, it would be like, oh gosh, we'd drop like 20 beats per minute or whatever, however many. And
you have to adjust it.
Like instantly. Right away. Dun, 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 dun. And there would be some back and forth between Tom and I sometimes, like if it, or I don't know if it ever happened, but this sample thing, you could like double tap it and it would double up the thing, oh no, it's just absolute chaos.
I can think of like Tom too, his guitar on Now That We're on Fire. Set a fire? No, not set a fire. On what
Yeah.
song am I talking about? Now that you're on fire.
You're on fire.
On,
yeah.
I think it was on Secret Weapon.
Yeah, because the bridge.
So there's a bridge part that has a delay. Bum, 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 bum. And he would hit that sometimes. It would be like a crazy tempo.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just tap it. What? A little tappy. Seems so easy, but I guess it's not that easy.
Yeah, easy to go wrong. Yeah, and what was it? Yeah, Don't Walk Away, same thing. Like,
Yeah.
But he had the time to kind of set that up. But like, then I had to hear it, you know, and I'd be playing my little hi-hat part to it. And oh God, yeah. All I hear is wow, 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 you know, and once anything else happens, like you start singing and the bass goes in, or we come back to that part after the chorus. Yeah, there were a couple songs on that record that were hard to pull off real great because of that.
Yeah.
You know, I think we did fine, but
I think with anything, those songs especially, but any song, you need to practice it. You need to have those experiences to know kind of how to like navigate those situations, and then hopefully they happen less.
Yeah.
But I mean, it takes trial and error. That's the problem. Is like, unless like some bands are on a click, and there's other problems that come with click. So I mean, it's not like instantly all my problems are gone. But if you have a click, you don't really need to worry about Tom's tempo because he's going to be going to the click as well. So you just stay on that click, boom, boom, boom. We've always been such a live band that we just, I don't know if we could play to a click, but it would feel like we're cutting our balls off a little bit. We'd feel somewhat neutered. But yeah, that's a whole different animal, a whole different beast, and some bands really sound great with a click live. But I don't know. We're a punk band, and we're kind of close to a hardcore band in that we just go on pure energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Yep. Yeah, never did the click.
Never did the click. So should we end this with a couple voicemails?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Maybe people aren't expecting to be asking you these, but they'll be stoked for you to get some input on this.
Okay.
Here, there's just 3 here, so I don't think it's going to take too long. Here we go.
Mike, Punk Rock Christmas was awesome. Took my 10-year-old son and his buddy, had a blast. You're going to get this after the big game, but go Pats!
Oh, how'd that work out? He said go Pats. Pats.
I think,
Yeah, I don't think the Packs were in the Super Bowl, but the Pats were. Yeah. How'd that work out for you, buddy? Thanks for your call. Thanks for coming out to Punk Rock Christmas. That was a fun one.
Yeah, that was a great show.
That was awesome. Ed, I've heard nothing but positivity, and I've heard a lot of people have called in about Punk Rock Christmas.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
It was awesome. And I felt that love that night. Like, it felt like, it didn't even feel like a festival as much as a giant MxPx show.
Yeah.
Because a festival, you get a lot more people that are kind of like, I like this band, but I don't really know the band or whatever.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I felt like just about everybody, 90% of the crowd was there to see MxPx, which was absolutely amazing. So thanks, y'all.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the next one. 2 more.
Hey, Mike Herrera. It's me and my guitarist. I'm the drummer of our band. My name's RJ. My friend here is Addison. We were wondering if you're going to go to Warped Tour. We'd be really happy if you'd go. It's maybe too late to, ask, but,
it would have been.
Maybe if you could, do something and get into Warped Tour, we would most definitely come see you. We've seen you before.
We saw you at Punk Rock Christmas.
We saw you at Punk Rock Christmas.
Nice.
And we saw you play with Reliant K.
Wow.
Less than Jake. I think I said Relentless.
And Smoking Post.
It's Smoking Post. But yeah, we were just wondering if you were going to go to Warped Tour.
Ask more questions.
You asked some more questions.
I already asked you. So, you got any more tips to being in a successful band that could hopefully go big someday?
Yeah.
And also writing music.
Give us tips on writing music, please.
Tips on being successful.
Okay.
Band practice right now.
Yeah, all right, band practice right now. Okay, bye.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you for the call. It was great. Yes, you called it. We're coming to the Warped Tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they wanted to know tips on how to be a successful band. and also songwriting. What do you think, Yuri? What comes to
Oh
mind?
man, I know when people ask me obviously no one asked me the songwriting question, but the successful band, I'm just like, find you a mic, find you a mic, find you.
Find somebody that's
well,
driven.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm joking, but not, like, yeah. I mean, you have to just keep going,
Relentless.
Yeah, relentless.
Yeah, I think that's what the other day I was like. Thank you, by the way. It's nice of you to say. I was like, I've been editing a bunch of like just videos to get, but they're not for promos or anything that we have yet.
Okay.
But I'm just like preemptively editing. I'm like, should I take a break? Like, should I like just do nothing for a minute? And I'm like, I should.
Yeah.
But like, it's not that I don't. It's not that I'm working all the time.
Right.
But you have to be a self-starter.
Yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
the easiest way to say it is be a self-starter, be somebody that's willing to do something without being told to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is how to be successful in almost anything in life. I don't think I'd be successful necessarily in being a rocket scientist or, maybe. I don't know. I don't really know what it takes. But what I've spent a lot of time doing is writing songs, doing videos, making video editing, all the things that it kind of comes to. But I still don't consider myself an expert. It's always trial and error. It's always let's try something new. So yeah, I think you're right on. You need to be a self-starter, or at least have one person in the band that is. Yeah,
I think we when I met you and Andy had been kind of playing together for a bit. I think the final piece of the at least that puzzle was found. But yeah, it was, I mean, I always tell people, it's like, when I met him, like he'd already written like 50 songs. It was just like, you were just going, and it's inspiring to be around, and I wanted the same thing. And then, obviously we had Andy left and Tom came in, and Tom was another one of those guys. It was the same energy, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like, okay, we're all headed the same direction.
I think ultimately that's why Andy didn't work out. Is like he was making too many excuses. We love Andy, of course.
Yeah.
But he was making too many excuses. He didn't have the same drive,
right,
or belief.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have the same drive, but do you believe?
Right.
He didn't.
Right.
And so I was just like, well, Tom over here
Yeah.
is itching to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of saw he didn't even play guitar.
Right.
Literally like, hey, learn guitar because you're going to be our guitar player. Like it was like the second guy that had to learn how to play guitar to be in the band.
Yes.
So, and you were just at the very beginning of the drums.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was I had this funny. So the other day I drove by the parking lot where I think it was the very first time I ever talked to you. I remember you were talking to Eric Buckham, an old friend of ours, about, because I think he had played drums before, and so you were like, do you still play the drums? And I had just started. I think I had been playing 2 months or something, and so I interjected and said, oh, I play the drums, but I was totally joking because like I was so new. But you were like, you kind of jumped on it, and we made plans to get together the next weekend, and that was that.
Somehow, even then, before we even started the band, I knew it was hard to get a drummer.
Yeah,
and I think I knew this because Bad Juju, who was really the biggest local punk band that I knew anyway, they were down the street, and that was what gave me the audacity to start my own band, because I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, let's do this.
Right.
So Jeremy, their drummer, wasn't their drummer. He was my drummer. We hadn't even really played together yet. We were friends. We worked together. That landscaping job from Let's Ride, that was me and Jeremy. I got him that job. We worked together for that summer, and he was telling me about I've been playing the drums forever, blah blah blah. And I watched him play the drums. He was insane.
Yeah.
He was good.
Oh, yeah.
And so before we even got a chance to play together, maybe one time we kind of like tried to jam and didn't even play a song, right?
Yeah.
I took him to the band practice, and their drummer just happened to be like, was leaving in a week or two, moving away, because we were kids, right? Like, so he was going, and they're like, we need a drummer. And I'm like, oh, I know a guy.
Oh no.
never played with him again. Like, and I just remember like months later, I went to a Bad Juju show, and I saw Jeremy walking with two ladies on his arm, just like the cliche thing of like he was just balling.
Yeah. Oh,
and I was like, I wasn't mad or anything. I was just like, what? You know, just like, what? Like, no, you know, had no idea. Like, so like I was always naive as a kid, you know, like, and so like it always was a big surprise when I got ripped off, or when, you know, whatever happened to us throughout our career.
Yeah.
Just didn't see it coming. I was always like focused on what I was doing and not realizing there's other people wanting to do the same thing that are going to take your shit and do it, you know? And, and like I said, I don't blame them for that. We were just kids, and I didn't have anything going. Right. So if it wasn't for that,
I know
you wouldn't be here.
No, absolutely not.
Dang. Yeah. Where would you be? I mean, it's just no way to know.
I think about it sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's why I'm like, find you a mic. You know, it's like there have been plenty of times throughout the band's history where I've wanted to give up, but you didn't. So it's like, well, then I guess I can't. So, you know, but you know, here we are this many years later, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm still here.
Absolutely, man. I think it all happens for a reason. I don't know what reason, but you know, we are still here, and and it's great. It's still great. Absolutely.
You know, it's not just
There's been a lot of great eras.
Yeah.
But we continually come up with a new great era. So it's not like the good old days, but it's every era has its, well, there's a couple eras we could leave behind, but we're in a good era right now.
We're in a great era.
Absolutely. I don't know what it is, but you know, it's like having to compete with AI, with you know, artwork and songwriting and thinking, and you know, people writing books literally with AI. I mean, sure, go for it. I don't know, whatever. But it's just wild. It's like when I went to write, you know, the new songs for the record. I was just like, okay, just write better than AI. That's my goal, right? Like, and I feel like we did. I think, you know, I don't think AI can write a song, of course, but like, it's not going to do what we're going to do. We're going to do, and maybe it will eventually, you know, when it gets really good, but I think it's just going to be better than what we do eventually, right? So, but part of what is so good about what MxPx and other bands like us do is we're not perfect.
Right.
We're adding our human decisions into those songs, and because of that, it's not perfect, but it's not maybe what you thought was going to happen, but that's part of the surprise, and part of the beautiful nature of what we do.
Right.
Either way, it's going to be a struggle. Like I never kid myself and think being in a punk band is going to be, you know, the easiest life.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But it's going to be more free than the other alternatives that I've looked in the face. You know, but I don't know. Like I think it's tough to say. It's tough to say, but staying grateful.
Yeah.
And realizing that everything that's happened in our career has led us to here.
Yep.
And so I don't, even though it's kind of ridiculous, some of the things that have happened with like Tooth and Nail and all the lawyers and suing each other, and it's cool that it happened now. Like it doesn't matter now, right? Like it's like it had to happen for us to have the perspective we have. And I think it all goes into the songs. It all goes into how we play shows, and it's funny to look back on old video of us.
Yeah,
because I've been putting together clips and stuff from the podcast here and there, and sometimes I'll put like an old clip. Of just, you know, for the B-roll, and seeing how we used to operate, you know, because we don't have a roadie. Maybe we have one roadie, but we're setting up everything ourselves. We're on stage before the show starts. We're like talking in the mic. All right, I think we're almost ready. Okay, we're going to start now. And then, you know, do the song, talk about what are you talking about in between, you know? And it's like, nobody at that show thought anything weird about that. You know,
Right,
it's like because you sort of grow into this show, you know, this traveling show that happens.
Yeah.
And it's not that it was bad then. It's like it has to level up in a way that feels natural.
Right.
Because if you start doing what we do now in that club, in that little place, it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's like we saw bands that were super good that were like, those guys are going to either be really good or you kind of felt the cheese. You know, you saw the cheese about them.
Yeah.
Like, they're really kind of good, but also not real. I don't know what it is. So I think audiences really feel that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why bands like us still have an audience. It's, they realize, oh, that was actually real.
Yeah,
you know, those people weren't just industry plants or, you know, found out a talent show and a bunch of money was put into them. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, that makes a big difference. And you know, you can't get to where we are now without going through all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's next?
What's
next for MxPx?
What's next?
Besides the shows, what do you think? Well, new album. Okay, that's a dumb question to ask. We just talked about what's next. We don't know when the new record's coming out because it's not ready yet, and we don't start promoting until it's kind of ready.
Yeah.
So still in the process, still getting it going, and but yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got some great songs, and I'm not just saying that. Oh yeah, like, I am excited to be playing these songs live and for you guys to hear them all. Yeah,
absolutely. Me too. It's always real when you can play them live. That's when when it's like, okay, we got a new record. We got new songs. They're part of when the songs become part of the catalog and part of the live show. That's a good feeling.
For sure. Yeah.
Because sometimes you put out a single.
Yeah.
And it's hard for audiences to find out about it, to grab onto it. It's not as big of a deal. It doesn't feel as important. And a lot of people just assume it's going to be on the full-length record.
Right.
But we, for the most part, don't release singles like other bands do, where they put it on the record and, you know, 4 or 5 singles in and that's all on the record.
Yeah.
We'll put out a couple singles to tide people over until the next record, but then we'll put out usually one single for the new album, and then the new album comes out and then we'll put out more songs, maybe on a video or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know why we do that. I think a lot of it is because we do things different always.
Sure.
You know, we're always doing our own thing. But also just because we're focusing on what matters more to us.
Yeah.
And we don't need to put all these songs on the record because we've got so many songs.
Right.
So that's always a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, I wish we could just preserve ourselves in amber in some ways so that we could just keep writing, recording, and releasing new music, new albums, well into, you know, us being 100. But you know, so every album now has to really count.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you really killed it. All these drum parts you came up with are awesome, and people are going to be like, how the hell is he doing it? How is he doing that? Yeah. A lot of fast stuff. A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm super happy with it.
All right.
Cool.
Follow Yuri on Instagram. What is it?
It's my full name, Yuri Ruley.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the best place, probably.
Yeah.
Just follow him there and say what's up. All right, you guys.
Cool.
Peace.
See ya.
All right. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode. Thanks to Yuri for taking the time. I appreciate it. A lot of good stuff in here. If you want to call in, the number is 360-830-6660. And we'll get you your voicemail. We'll play it on here. I'll answer your question. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. If you're outside the country, dial a +1 before that, 360-830-6660. All right, let's go. If you haven't already done so, MxPx.com, check out the dates. We just released a ton of new dates. We're going to be doing Warped Tour. We're about to be on the East Coast in March. That's this month, March. And Goldfinger's everywhere as well. So I appreciate you guys. Shout out to producer Bob McKnight. Appreciate you. Peace.